I'm Coach Ant.
I'm Coach T, and we're fans that know some.
And today we are back with our NFL AFC North Fans Collide. And of course, we have the team back. We got Coach T representing his Pittsburgh Steelers. We got Jason representing his Ravens. And we got Ryan representing his Bengals. So let's get it cracking. What's up, guys?
Yeah, what's up, man?
What's going on?
Good day today. Let's get into it. Start with the Bengals fan.
You started with me last time.
Nah, I started with Ravens, actually, but we're good.
Did you?
Yeah, we did. Yep.
Give
Remember?
somebody else a chance.
Yeah, we won't start at the top of the league this time. But, all right, so Bengals fan, what draft pick or position upgrades have the biggest impact for you guys this year?
Well, probably our first round pick, since Trey is kind of in the, we don't know what's going to happen with Trey yet. So, yeah, that was probably our biggest pick. And then I really like both linebacker picks. That was a spot where we needed a lot of depth and upgrade. So, yeah, I'm happy with all of the draft picks, to be quite honest.
Okay.
Yeah.
So who's going to have the biggest impact, you think?
Stewart, our first round pick.
You
Yeah,
think
for
Stewart
sure.
will have the
I do.
Okay.
You
Yep.
think it's like game changer for you guys where
I
it
think he
pushes
can
you?
be. I think he can be. If you watch him on film, like, okay, sack numbers aren't great, whatever, but he is disruptive.
Mm.
A lot of attention on the offense. So yeah, he's just he's a wrecker. I like him.
Nice.
Nice,
Okay.
nice.
Yeah.
Okay, I like that. Even though you didn't sound too confident about it, but we'll go with that. Ravens fan, we'll go with you. What draft pick or position upgrades are you most excited about, and who do you think will have the biggest impact?
I think our two top picks are fantastic.
Okay.
Like Malachi Starks is our starting strong safety.
Yep.
Frees up Kyle Hamilton to just run across the field and be a menace, which is going to be nice. And because we were shoring up a lot of problems last year and had to move Hamilton back into coverage.
Yeah.
Giving him a little more freedom, true free safety. AFC North, everybody's going to hate it, except for us.
Okay.
And then Mike Green is a good pickup.
Okay.
I think he's going to really be good for our edge. I think he might end up having probably one of the most dominant rookie seasons of anybody who got drafted in because he sets himself up well. And the fact that everybody's at camp, very nice.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, I can
That's
say
always
that
a good thing.
our number one is signed
Yeah.
and everybody's at OTA.
Yeah. Yeah.
Our entire team is at OTA. No one else at this table can look me in the eye because y'all aren't.
It's all good. Doesn't make any impact
Yeah.
on the season, but
OTAs
Let's
and
go,
the
Coach.
record, you know,
Coach.
two different things.
Coach Ant, what are you most excited about, and who's going to have the biggest impact with your Browns?
Man, honestly, everyone knows the quarterback situation is like the hot topic. You know what I mean? I think we have to. I'm excited to see how that plays out. You know what I mean? And
Are you excited?
yeah, because I need to know. I need to
Nervous
know.
and excited are two different things.
Yeah.
I need to know. Okay, what direction are we going?
Yeah.
Are we starting with a vet? Are we giving one of the young bucks, you know, an opportunity? You know what I mean? So I think that's really what I'm looking forward to, just seeing how that plays out. I'm not really thinking about, okay, this person should start over this. I don't know. You know what I'm saying? I think how they progress throughout, you know, camp and then we preseason, I'm excited just to see it play out,
Yeah,
to be
yeah,
honest with
yeah.
you. Just
I
keep
got
it
you.
all the way 100.
So not really just one particular person. You just seeing how everything plays out, so to speak. So that's good. Okay. So for the Steelers, man, I'm a bit of a grumpy Steeler fan, right? I wasn't too happy with the draft, and I'm not too happy about what's going on within the organization right now. But if I have to pick somebody, it would be Caleb Johnson. I want to see if he's going to reestablish that Steelers running game that we need to have.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, we have Jalen Warren coming back, but if he comes in as a solid backup, you know, and we have that 1-2, and matter of fact, 3-punch, because we also have a pretty good running back from Philly that we picked up too, third down type back. So that right there is probably the most interesting to me right now. But we obviously have some issues. So
Just find somebody to hand them the ball.
Yeah, exactly.
You know what, I got to ask you something before you go, because you mentioned how you're kind of like a grumpy Steelers fan, and I sense that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it's funny, every time I see Tomlin now on TV, I get like this sad. It just seems sad where he's sitting. So
Steeler
you
Nation
guys
is
got the
sad, for
same
sure.
energy, like. And I don't know, like in the past with him and his demeanor, it was like, okay, yeah, the structure, but it just seems like it's getting old. That's what I see. It seemed like that whole mystique. Not saying he's not a good coach,
absolutely,
but it's like, okay, that structure is still getting you the same result. And it's almost like when you have somebody that's constantly like, they hardcore, but you're not like scared of them anymore. You know?
Yeah.
Right.
So they're barking, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And the bark is not as loud anymore. That's the vibe that I get. You know what I'm saying?
That's absolutely the vibe. I think they recognize that they absolutely dropped the ball and missed some big opportunities again with the draft and again with
the trade
that we just did. And I'll get into that. I won't get off into my rant yet. We'll leave that for later.
Okay.
But I think that's the sentiment of Steeler Nation. Like we're fed up and we want to change. So, something's got to happen.
I can dig it.
I'll pivot to my next question, Mr. Ravens fan here. So Lamar Jackson is MVP pedigree. My question to you is, does he have enough weapons on offense to help him out this season and dominate like they should do in the AFC?
His numbers last year.
I'm not talking about last year.
I'm saying
I'm talking about this season.
This season.
Yeah.
All he needs to do is maintain.
Okay.
His numbers last year were better than his MVP numbers. He has a running back who has proven to be durable and is a monster.
Yes.
He didn't lose anything. He subbed out an offensive lineman, but we picked up some in the draft. We have some good depth. Offensively, we didn't lose any of our weapons. Nothing that we had. And we picked up D-Hop, who's a scary little back for a 3.
Yeah.
He's not asked to be a 2 or a 1.
Yeah.
He's being asked to be a 3.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what D-Hop is in his career right now, and he's going to be a nasty 3.
Okay.
Which, really, we lost Aguilar and we brought in D-Hop. That's a plus.
That's an upgrade, in my opinion. Yeah.
Coaches are all there. We didn't lose anybody. We had another year of having offensive coordinator in place. I am pleasantly surprised we haven't had any bad moves, and I'm feeling good and confident. So Lamar will have the team there. It's defensively, can we shut people down?
Yeah.
And I think we've done some things to do that.
Okay. That's a good take. Now I'll pivot back to the Browns here.
Okay.
All right. So what are you looking forward to the most? You guys have 4 quarterbacks on the roster right now going into minicamp. Who is your day one quarterback?
Again, I don't know.
You don't know?
I don't know.
Your coach says pick it. He's starting your OTAs.
Hey, you know what? Stefanski did break down, like, don't look too far into like who's getting the reps, because based on how they're doing the reps is based on what they want to see.
Yeah.
Right. To be honest, I think Flacco would get the start. You know what I mean? I think right now he's been consistent, and, the practice, unless he had some huge drop off, I see him being the safe bet to start a season as far as what you need to go in with a veteran, knows the system, can really go into game one ready. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But that would be my guess for day one. If it remains that way throughout the season, that's a whole different ball game. So
let me ask you this. Do you think with them sort of setting a depth chart for everybody to see and speculate out there, they're showing Shador at number 4, do you put any stock into that? Or do you think they're just playing the game, so to speak?
To be honest, I think, and this is where people got to understand, like, the NFL is also a business. If you think about it, right, during the draft, if you looked at the Browns Instagram feed, you had, I think when Gabriel got drafted, he had like 6 posts.
Yeah.
Everyone else had about 5 to 6 posts.
Yeah.
Shador had 19.
Yeah.
And that's their official page. You know what I'm saying? I think, I don't know if everything that they're doing is all football related.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I think it's also drawing in that attention. I think it's also trying to, when I say drawing in that attention, not like you are not basing it off of football.
Yeah.
I think there were enough questions about Shador coming in that allows them to, play this type of game. And when I say game, I don't think it's not like a strategic thing, but they have the luxury to see what else everyone can do.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I think the other thing about it is, if you look at the attention that he brings and you look at the bad PR we had with how Watson ended up, Shador comes in, he's expected to be a starter. I feel they don't want to feel like they're being like forced to make him the starter. They want to show they're making him work. So if he earns it, it's like he earned it, and you guys didn't force us to make him the guy. I think it's a little of that going on.
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense. That makes a lot of sense, actually. Actually a good strategy, in my opinion. So I'll pivot to my Bengals guy. There's been some reports out there that Kenneth Grant may be a little better than your draft pick. What's your perspective on that?
Kenneth Grant. I mean, hey, we'll find out. I mean, we're not going to know anything until we see these guys line up and play, right?
Yeah.
We can talk all we want, but let's see what it's like when the pads are hitting, when it's go live time.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying?
So you don't have any stats or anything to back up your guy?
I already told you, sack numbers are low. But if you watch him on tape, dude, he pops off the tape. Mm-hmm. He really does.
Okay.
All right.
Double
teamed almost every play. I mean, the guy is a freak. He's a physical freak.
Mm-hmm.
And let's keep it real. A&M hasn't been real. Those guys don't seem to get coached real well in college.
So they don't transition very well.
No, I'm not saying that.
Okay.
I'm not saying that.
Okay.
He's going to get some real coaching now.
But there's a difference between being at A&M and being at Georgia. I mean, Georgia turns out guys who are ready to play in the NFL.
Right.
A&M doesn't have that history.
Okay. Cool.
All right. So you heard it from the big dog, the Bengals fan. His guy's better. Ravens fan. Headlines, from rookie camp, OTAs, insider news. What has you most optimistic about your team going into season camp?
I mean, I started the pod earlier.
Yeah.
Everybody's there.
Yeah.
Everybody is there.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody's signed. Everybody has contracts. Everybody's there. I'm really happy we ended the Tucker thing very early, before OTAs, right after the draft, after we picked up a kicker. So it's not a distraction. He can work out whatever has going on in his life.
Mm-hmm.
We don't have to talk about it. It doesn't need to be a distraction. Go in focused. And I like what we've picked up from a couple free agent signings. Not a lot. The Costa and Ozzie have never been about going out and hunting for players. We build.
Yeah, absolutely.
And, same thing going on. And I like that everything that's coming out is some positive things.
Mm-hmm.
We had Washington go down with an Achilles. That sucked.
Yeah.
That hurts our depth.
Yeah.
But it means Malachi Starks has to step up. It means the rest of our depth has to step up for D-backs and safeties. And
I hear you keep saying Malachi Starks. You think he's a key player?
He's a starter.
Obviously. I know he's a starter.
He's a
but
strong
you
safety
think
starter.
He's going to make the defense go this year? You think he's going to be that?
He allows Kyle Hamilton to go.
Okay.
That kid's a star.
Mm-hmm.
That kid's all pro.
Got you.
And he had to be a teammate last year at the end of the year and go back and play coverage when he's best when he's blitzing off the line, scaring the hell out of a quarterback. It's like, what's going on?
Mm-hmm.
Or free range and trying to come across to deflect and pick off. And that's where we'll need him. It actually helps out the linebacking crew, helps out the edge rushers as well, to have somebody who's a mosquito tormenting. Your Troy Polamalu, just irritating the hell out of everybody.
Mm-hmm.
That kind of role is what we want him to be in.
Yeah.
And having Starks in place will help cement that.
Okay. Now I can get into my mediocrity take on my Steelers, right? You mentioned Ozzie and team. They don't have to go out and find players. They like to build, right? And that's what you would like to see from a storied franchise, My problem is we went into the offseason with the understanding or a beginning thought that Russell Wilson or Justin Fields was going to be the guy for this season, right?
Mm-hmm.
They both walked. We got nothing for them. Okay, that's problem number one.
Right.
Problem number two is with the deep defensive tackle class in this year's draft. We decided to take Derek Harmon, and no knock on him. He's definitely a beast. But what happened to offense? We've already established defense.
Mm-hmm.
We drafted 2 offensive players this year, 5 defensive. That's problem number 2. You tried to cover that up with the signing, DK Metcalf for a 2nd-round pick. That was some splash. Had you kept George Pickens, that goes back to the trade that we just did. We missed an opportunity not once but twice with that. What happened in the draft to where you didn't feel like you could get reasonable compensation for Pickens during the draft to move up to maybe get another offensive player,
Mm-hmm.
which we need. But then you trade him and you only get 2 picks for next season, which has nothing to do with getting better this season. That's problem number 3,
Mm-hmm.
right?
It smells like rebuilding.
It smells like mediocrity.
I was going to say,
But for you guys made the playoffs.
Yeah.
I mean, you can complain. You made the playoffs. Rebuilding just hurts right now. You have the elements to make it.
They made the playoffs, but what did you got? Did you end on a 5-game losing streak?
Something like that.
Yeah.
Something like that. But again, when do we start building for now versus later?
well, see, make it make sense then.
Yeah.
As a Steelers fan, like on the flip side, right? Why would those moves make sense? Because it has to be a rhyme or reason. I understand, like, okay, you're saying like how it doesn't make sense and the reasons why, but take a step back and what do you think the thought process was with the moves that they made? Like, what would be your take or answers?
I can't make it make sense. I mean, I'm going to be honest with you. I mean, there's no reason why you would draft a defensive player first when we're already established as one of the best defenses in our division, when the lack of points was the reason why we couldn't get over the hump in the playoffs. Hampton, Amarion Hampton, he's available right there at that pick, right? At 3rd round, you still had your 3rd round pick. Who's to say Caleb wouldn't have been there at 3rd round? Now you have 2 running backs, 2 more running backs, 2 more that are game changers possibly, right? You still have Pickens. You made the 2nd round draft pick for DK. Look at that on paper right now. With those Amarion Hampton, Caleb Johnson, Jalen Warren, Pickens, DK on offense. Now your only missing piece is quarterback. What happens if
situation
what
than
happens
these dudes.
I'm saying what happens if you end up signing a Justin Fields with that at your helm? And you still drafted a YA Black later on in the draft who's pretty decent at D tackle. He's quality. You didn't have to go D tackle number 1.
Are you picking up draft capital to potentially do a quarterback draft next year
for next
to
year,
try to move up. You tanking this year? Sliding
No,
up?
we don't need to tank because we draft Will, from Ohio State, right? I feel like he's capable. He's a capable quarterback. I had him in my draft board. You guys saw me on his draft board. I love him, as someone who can learn behind a Justin Fields or, Ohio State quarterbacks are pretty hot right now in the league, if you ask me, right? So that's my rant. I mean, I'm going to pivot off of that, and I'm going to be done with it. I just had to get that off my chest because that has been bothering me for the last 6 weeks, possibly,
Yeah, we can tell.
Well, what's your thoughts on Aaron Rodgers?
That's another setback. I mean,
I agree.
Time and time again. Well, I mean, it started when we allowed Ben Roethlisberger, but he was not willing to bring along the next franchise quarterback. It's documented. We have quarterbacks that are there now who put it out there that said, he wasn't really trying to tutor me. It was more like a competition.
Yeah.
Than it was bringing him along.
That's a whole nother podcast about
right.
Is it a responsibility of a quarterback to become, quote unquote, for Joe Flacco, a mentor? Is that their job, or is their job to be a quarterback?
Well, when you're on your way out, I think it's your duty. It's your duty to leave the franchise in good hands.
It's
right?
different ways you can do that, though, right? Because even Flacco just mentioned, he said, I'm not a mentor, but that doesn't mean he's not open to help. If you have questions, he feels like, hey, I'm competing, and you can learn. I'll answer any questions. I'll help you along the way, but he's not going in saying, okay, I'm going to mentor this guy. Because when you are committing to being a mentor, that is a whole different task. It's a whole different approach. So I think it all comes down to, I think with Ben, it was more so just from some of the reports, he was a little more standoffish with even giving that help that Flacco was willing to give and willing to open his arms.
But when you're on your way out, when do you balance, switch the attitude?
These are pro athletes with egos bigger than the room.
Well,
right?
I mean, I understand that. It comes with the territory.
Now you need to be small. Now you need to be little. Now you need to be a teacher. And it's like, there's people who aren't built for that.
So let me ask you this. Lamar Jackson, when he's on his way out, would you rather him be, standoffish and say, I'm going to ride the wheels or would you rather him bring a guy along that when he leaves, he's going to take care of the franchise or the franchise?
Lamar's a one-on-one.
Ben was a one-on-one. I mean, Ben's got some Super Bowls. So,
and that's the truth, though. Ben Roethlisberger is a one-on-one. There was not going to be Ben Roethlisberger 2.
Yeah.
That's what Mason Rudolph was supposed to be for a heartbeat. But there's not.
That was good because I share the same sentiment.
Yeah. But when Lamar goes out, we're going to have to change the page. Turn the page, excuse me.
Yeah.
Because preceding Lamar was Flacco. You can't tell me there's two absolutely different quarterbacks.
Right.
One won a Super Bowl, looked fantastic, but was done. And we had to turn the page and change the entire offense and go.
Yeah.
And that's what you got to do. You can't just say, hey, I need you to be the next this. I'm going to go from Favre, into Rodgers. And then I'm going to go from Rodgers into Love. That's not usually how you're going to do everything.
Right.
Yeah.
And I think Ben looked bad too going out.
Yeah, remember the whole arm thing?
He looked
3-yard passes in a cloud of dust.
I was at that. I was at that Bengals game when we got ran out of the jungle. I was there, and I saw people quit on the sidelines. They were sitting on top of benches, laughing, giggling. That was pretty bad. That was a bad time for Steelers, Steeler Nation. And not to get off on that rant, but to acquire all these picks for next year's draft, there's no dominant quarterbacks in next year's draft. I don't think that draft is better than last year's draft. You know what I mean? So
you're gonna have somebody with a good last name coming out next year, though.
Oh, okay. that doesn't translate for me to
people
are
going to be fighting
player.
For Manning. They just see something there.
I mean, Manning, he won't play for the Steelers. He won't be available for the Steelers. So, I mean, in my mind, this was the year to try and do something. And like I said, I do like Will, and he's good. But we just, and I feel like I speak for the masses of Steeler Nation, is we're just sick and tired of just missing. I remember when we went from Bubby Brewster to Mike Tomczak to Mark Maddox, and it was bad. It was just bad football for years. And I didn't want to see us get back to that position, and I'm really hoping we don't. But Aaron Rodgers is not the answer. Just to answer your question, we just missed some opportunities to get some guys in here that could learn and be, the guy going forward. Pivoted on to the Browns. I mean, I hate to stay on quarterbacks. You guys, the quarterback situation is just a hot topic, man. How does the franchise move on and get the fans to focus on other things other than your quarterback situation?
You got to solidify the quarterback position. Because right now, and again, that's why I think I don't want to say we're dragging this out, but everything is like a drama. If you look online, if you look at the news, everything is like, again, who had the most completions and practice and things of that nature. To be honest, it's the cachet and what Shador brings to the table, that attention. We've never had this much attention when it comes to like camp.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like when you really think about it.
When Mr. Watson was going to be your quarterback, you had plenty of attention.
We had attention, but not the level of, like, I would say more positive and people intrigued to see about like Sanders. We had a lot of like, protests attention. So, but we had, there's so many outlets, and then he brings, there's obviously hate, because he walks with a certain level of confidence. Some people are not comfortable with that, but he has a lot of love. You have people from all different states that are now like Browns fans because they want to see him succeed. So I don't think you get away from the quarterback position until you know who's playing, and to be honest, until he hits the field. Because you start Flacco, people are going to be wondering, okay, when does Shador hit the field? You put Gabriel in, when is Shador going to hit the field?
Yeah.
I think at some point, I believe that he will end up the starting quarterback.
The Gabriel pick was a head scratcher.
Yeah.
It really was.
Yeah.
The third round.
I didn't want to be the one
that
to
was
say
odd.
it.
To me, that was odd.
No, it was, because you can't go from not only what Shador did in college when he was asked to win games. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And Gabriel's is a good college player, but when you look at the talent that's around him at Oregon.
System quarterback.
If you take him out of that equation, you can't say Oregon they're done.
Exactly.
Right.
System.
With Colorado, you take Shador from that quarterback position. Travis Hunter is now having trouble getting the ball. All the receivers they had, which they had the most go into the NFL, they're not getting the ball. Their line was, you had one 5-star who was a freshman.
Yeah.
And the next best lineman was a walk-on, IMG, super talented, Cash Cleveland, but he's undersized as a center.
Yep.
But super talented. But those guys led the charge, and they kept everything together.
Yeah.
And no running game. So Shador had to go out when teams knew we're passing the ball. You're trying to get it to Hunter. You're trying to get it to Horn. You're trying to get it to Webster. You're trying to get it to these guys, and you have no running game. Let me see you beat us. And he did.
And you're still winning. Right. I was going to say
that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So that's why with that pick, I didn't get it. And you had all these experts that had Shador at the top for a reason. And now, guess what? As Browns media coverage, they can drag this out, get a lot of attention.
Who doesn't make the team, though? You don't carry 4. Who doesn't make the team?
They're
Who doesn't
carrying
survive?
5.
Flacco might be
Yeah,
the
we-
odd man
They're
out.
carrying 5.
Yeah.
No, I'm joking.
Technically, you're carrying 5. He doesn't have an official roster spot
Yeah.
because he's on injured reserve. But you have 4. You're not carrying all 4. Who gets traded off?
You know what? I know people have their answer, and you can say, well, it'll be one of the veterans because they're old, either Pickens, or even though he's not really old, but you know what I mean? He's been in the league, or Flacco. To be honest, who knows? Like, Gabriel's young, but if you keep getting balls batted down, you know what I mean, in practice and stuff like that, that may be an issue, or they may like his youth and they may get rid of one of the veterans. I truly believe what Stefanski is saying. Like, they really want to see, and they're making this a true competition.
Yeah.
And what you mentioned before about we have to play.
Yeah.
I think this is really going to come down to what
right.
they do
Yeah.
in the trenches in practice. There's no crystal ball in this type of situation.
Right.
I think it's really going to come down to when a team, the coaches analyze these practices.
Okay. Do you feel like that the defense has been properly addressed?
You know what? Only time would tell.
Okay.
Because last year I thought our defense was like, we had a good defense, but I think teams adjusted to that aggressive play that we would do, playing up close, some of the blitzes, things of that nature, and it backfired on us. Once they got used to what we did the previous year, NFL, the best football coaches, they adjust, and then we were getting killed off of that aggression.
Yeah.
So I really think it's going to come down to schematics and how that plays out.
Yep. Same question.
Yeah.
How do you think the Bengals defense is going to be addressed? Do you think they're going to switch up some coverages, switch up some, guys moving guys around, things like that?
Yeah. So a new DC.
Yeah.
Right. A lot of the guys from last year, the previous years under Lou, were saying it was too complicated.
Mm-hmm.
Right. You bring in a guy, Al Golden, been there before, so he knows the system. It seems like in the draft they allowed him to draft the guys that he wanted to draft. Right.
Mm-hmm.
For instance, he had a chance to get Xavier Watts, a guy he coached in college. He didn't.
Mm-hmm.
He went another direction, took the linebacker from South Carolina. So to me, that says we're giving this guy full range, right?
Yeah.
We had a lot of injuries last year, a lot
Mm-hmm.
of big injuries, corners, starting safeties. Logan Wilson out 8 weeks last year.
Mm-hmm.
So let's see what happens when these guys get back. And I think it'll be a step in the right direction. I like the way they address the draft with the linebackers, with the defensive line. I think it'll be a lot better this year.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to see how they adjust there. I want to pivot though, real quick. 12 games in, I want to ask all of you this question. Relatively healthy team, 12 games in. What is your team's record? Start with you.
6 of our first 12 are against playoff teams.
Okay.
Luckily, we got the Browns twice and the Jets in there, Bengals. So,
all right, be careful.
Just yeah. Enough said.
All right.
I think if we can roll through the first 12 and sit at 8-4,
Oh, 8-4. Okay.
I'm happy
Okay.
because of playing that many playoff teams.
Yep.
Because you got Super Bowl champ, you got the AFC champ, you got Buffalo Bills, you've got Chiefs, Rams, Texans. Yeah. Enough.
Okay. 8-4.
I was going to say 8-4.
8-4. Everybody can't be 8-4.
Well,
No. So 8-4.
Yeah. They were gifted.
Yeah.
Both wins.
Yeah.
Against us last year.
Okay.
We all know that. Gifted. So
W.
yeah, it was.
Elaborate.
Yeah. Elaborate. Yeah.
Different than an L. It's a W. That's NFC.
All you
or
got to do
AFC
is
North.
go back to the Thursday night game, right? Last play of the game. Not only was Joe face masked and hit late in the red zone with a no flag, but the receiver he was throwing to was freaking held. No flag. If we touch Lamar, it's a 15 easy, right? Right?
W.
Yeah,
He's
you got your W and your MVP
he's
and
the
an
MJ
exit out of
of
the
the
playoffs
NFL.
like usual.
Yeah.
So
Glad you were watching us on TV.
So we got 8-4, 8-4. Let's start with
Be honest.
Coach Ant.
Damn. 'em. 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 if we went in and I knew, like a lot of you guys, except for you, your quarterback situation is still suspect. But you made the playoffs, so at least you have that to build off of. These guys got quarterbacks that are solidified. Where I would like to be, let me just go there. I would say at least 7-5.
That's reasonable.
I would if we can,
not with Kenny Pickett though. That ain't happening.
I don't think it's happening with Flacco either. Honestly,
I mean, you never know. You never know.
Man, Flacco will throw for 303 touchdowns one week, and the next week throw 4 picks.
But if we are going with what I hope and what I want, Shador will be behind center.
And Shador's going to be that good that soon.
7-5.
I think, I mean, if for example, let's say Flacco start, and out of those 7 games, some of those wins are contributed to him, and then we have like a slip off, and then it's time to make that change, and then Shador comes in. I just believe in this kid, man. I just think when you think about like the mental toughness and being ready, if any rookie is going to be ready to play, I just think it's him. When you deal with all that attention, you deal with all the hate, the scrutiny, and you still have to perform.
Yeah.
That's really where these kids struggle when you think about it coming into the league. They've been hyped up in college, and you come in, and a lot of the guys that, when they get drafted, you have a lot of talent around you. When you have talent around you, you play with a certain level of confidence. We've seen how many people have, even mental health issues because of dealing with the pressure. This kid has been dealing with pressure forever at every level. Just think, even at Colorado, he's starting because his dad. And guess what? He showed I start because of what I bring to the table.
Yeah.
Deion can give you an opportunity.
Yeah.
But like he said, Deion is not throwing the touchdowns. Deion is not making the play. So I think if anyone is going to be a rookie and come in and win for you immediately and win for us, I think it's him. Because you got to think, Gabriel have to deal with not only being a rookie, all the other things you deal with, but is he mentally ready to deal with the Shador noise as well? You don't know how that's getting in his head. And again, I don't wish any negative on any of the guys. Whoever wins the position and plays well, I'm a root for him.
Yep.
But that's just what I think.
Yeah.
Now, I watched every Colorado game.
Mm-hmm.
Big Deion fan, big Shador fan. When 31 other organizations decide that player isn't someone we want in our organization for that many rounds of the draft, there's a statement made.
But you got to ask what is that statement,
though?
Right?
Yeah, what is that statement?
Because I look at it like this. Some of that comes with when he went into that draft process, Shador went in with a certain level of confidence. He didn't, but I'm just saying, he didn't throw the ball, and he's doing press conferences, and he's telling these organizations, hey, don't pick me if you don't want to win. And then you have the noise of, okay, Deion may be the coach, so I think there was enough for teams, and especially with football, you have a lot of positions to fill.
Yep.
Right?
Yep.
I think there was enough where teams can pivot. And when you think about the teams that really needed a quarterback, look at their situations, right? The Saints, you need a quarterback, but you still at the time was committed to Carr. He just was hurt this year.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Even we knew the Browns need a quarterback. You still have the whole situation with, okay, after this year, you have to address Watson at some point. You still got to address Watson.
Yep.
I think the Giants, it was some conversations about how their coach felt about not only how he handled like interview questions, but also the noise of Deion coaching in New York.
Yep.
There's a lot around that where I think it was a statement being made from the league. Like, we're not going to let this whole NIL presence enter the NFL.
Yep.
I don't know if it's more than that, though, because the NFL teams will overlook a lot.
Mm-hmm.
They'll overlook dozens of sexual assault allegations and give someone a $300 million contract guaranteed.
God. Shots fired.
Shots fired. And your organization did that. And then they're bringing in Shador when 31 other organizations said he's cancer. We don't want to draft him at that high level. And it might not be him. He could be a great kid, great quarterback. It's everything that he brings.
And that's the question I have. What does he bring?
Right.
He brings, coming from a Hall of Fame dad.
Does he watch film?
That's the thing.
Does he do anything
Pat Shurmur
in the room?
Confirmed that he does. And Pat Shurmur, coach with the Browns, was in the NFL and said, if you need a quarterback, this is the guy. If you watched every Colorado game and you pay attention to his relationship with the offensive coordinator and the reins they gave him to make decisions.
You
sound like
Mel Kiper. Mel Kiper was in tears over,
didn't Brian
not
Daboll
going.
say the exact opposite, though?
Yeah.
Who?
He did.
The Giants quarterback.
Head coach. Well, there was just a report that Sanders stayed 5 hours after OTAs was over this last practice too. 5 hours over. So
the kid
his work ethic is proven.
Work ethic, you don't go on the field. And then let's think about it, right? The baggage that he brings, why is he one of the favorite teammates already?
Yeah.
With the team. When you think about, he brings no negativity. All he brings is a confidence level and a belief, and to speak it and tell you what he believed. If that's baggage to people, I think people need to look in the mirror at your own insecurity.
I have to agree with that. This kid doesn't have any off the field issues. You never hear him in any
what are we talking about?
Nonsense.
Like negative.
So,
there's no negative. It's just a fact. I honestly think the league was making a statement about he was the highest NIL,
Yep.
I think it was more about how he approached the teams.
And
it's not an NIL statement. It's a statement on when you come visit, you need to romance us. It's not the other way around.
And that's what I'm saying.
And he refused to do that. So now it cost him a lot of money.
It did.
Because
And
I'm not going to say you shouldn't play the game, but at least act like you understand the game.
Yeah, and I think if you go back to how Deion came in the league, right? Deion he made the cornerback position. He changed the whole game as far as what you pay cornerbacks. And to your point, I think his approach.
Well, he was in the door first. He was in the locker room and showed on the field how awesome he was before he got the big dollars. He didn't get his big contracts until he had actually performed. He showed up and he showed out.
But look how he entered the draft. He entered the draft on some, I am the Don Juan, let's get it. Like, I'm a superstar. You saw the pictures with all the chains. And so to me, again, and you make a good point. Yes, Shador, teams rejected how he handled the draft process versus rejecting, his play. But they had enough of other needs to say, okay, it's not like we feel we can afford to reject it.
Right.
And I think they're going to be wrong.
Right. That's a good take. And just to reel us back in, we'll go back to record 12 games in, Steelers. And I'll be happy to be 6-6, to be honest with you. That's a stretch in my mind, and I know it. The quarterback situation is the main reason why. I mean, the teams that we play through those first 12 games, very beatable teams. It just depends, man. Like how if Mason Rudolph, we know what he is. We've seen this story before. He's already had an opportunity in Pittsburgh. So I'm not looking to think he's going to make a whole 360 and change the organization around if he's the guy. Will Howard, I mean, potential, but potential only gets you so far. So again, 6-6 is where I feel will be bearable. So we'll leave it at that.
What's your all's one game in the first kind of half of the season where it's like, we're winning that game? If I lose that game, I'm going to be upset. Like my last year, we lost to the Raiders at home in the first 4 weeks of the season. I was like, we let them come back on us. We were up by 3 scores, and we let them come back at home and lost.
Yeah.
Had my wife at the game with me, and we're watching. I'm like, what is going on? What is that game for you in the first half of the season?
For me, it's going to be Seattle. for obvious reasons, right?
The comeback game.
Yeah, the comeback game. And then DK obviously leaving there, coming to us. There will be some animosity there. So I would like to beat them handily. If we go out there and embarrass ourselves, it's almost like a double kick in the face. Like, we should beat you guys, but you took our best player and you still couldn't beat us, right? So that's Seattle would be the game for me.
Cleveland fans, what do you?
For me, I look at it different because I know in the NFL, every year is different. You know what I mean? And you never know what teams are going to come in to be. So once, you start to see how teams are trending, and that's when I can really, really answer that question. Anyone that's struggling, where you're like, oh, last week they didn't do anything. It looks like they're going downhill. And then all of a sudden you're like, okay, we can win that game.
Yeah.
And then you lose that game.
Yeah.
That is the most annoying thing as a fan.
Right.
You know what I mean? Where you're like, they just lost. You don't want to see anybody get hurt, but I'm just using it as an example. They down 3 linemen, receivers out. We should win that game. Then you turn around and lose it. So I'm more so looking at games like that once we see how the dust starts to settle. So
for me, it's the opener, Cleveland. And it's only because we've started slow the last 3-4 years.
You guys have to get off to a start.
Get off started.
Yeah.
We can't afford to lose games early anymore.
Yeah, if you guys open up like 0-2, 0-3,
then
no matter how good you are, the entire organization just starts. Everybody starts to hate on them.
Yeah, Zach will be. Wow, the fire will be hot on Zach.
Yeah.
Hot seat Zach. What about you, Ravens fan?
I'm saying second game of the season.
Okay,
Browns.
Because
I'm sitting here saying how much lack of turmoil we have in camp, and we feel solid, we feel good. Because our first game is against the Bills. We were big versus big fighting each other. Second game, Browns. We should be able to. If I'm saying that they're in turmoil and they're having a hard time figuring out who the quarterback is, this one should be very stable, one should be not. And if we lose to them, all of that organizational power we think we have and stability is a bunch of bullshit because it didn't yield us wins that we should get.
Gotcha.
And we will be back when we play these guys and win. We're coming right.
Actually, let me take that back. I'm going to say the Jets. I'm bitter about it. We got rid of Justin, so I want to pound the Jets, man.
What if he destroy y'all though?
That's
and I
what
can
I mean.
see that
I
happen.
What if they take the
I can
reins
see
off
that
him,
happening.
unleash him, and let him just?
I don't want to think
Chicago
about
can
it.
never think
I
about
don't
that
want to
one.
think about it. I don't want to think
think
about it.
Justin, if you put him in the right situation and he's still super young, I think he's a good quarterback, man. He just needs the right situation, the right opportunity, and
Sounds like he's found it. Honestly, they are bigging him up in New York right now.
They
So, man, I'll say the Jets more than Seattle. So obviously I have a couple, but that one's gonna that one's gonna hurt. You guys know how I feel about that. So to wrap it up, Battle of Ohio. I want to ask you this question. Give me some meaty context in this answer, okay? Battle of Ohio. I'll start with the Bengals. The Bengals, your team will be better than the Browns. Why? This season.
We have, in my opinion, the best quarterback in the league, the best receiver in the league, one of the top 3 or 4 offenses in the league. Should be improved on defense. We're playing a team that don't even know who their quarterback is. They don't really have any playmakers.
Yeah.
wow.
They got a great defensive end, Hall of Famer,
Yeah.
no doubt.
Yeah.
But outside of that, nothing really scares me about them, right?
Ooh.
And I'm not trying to.
No, that's big. That's big.
That's
what's up.
Yeah.
I feel you.
You know, to me, I thought the whole trading away that second pick was a bad move.
Okay.
Like it would have been more scary as a someone in the division if you guys would have picked up Travis Hunter than little arm Mason Graham. So that's just my opinion. Especially going and getting Shador and having those two together on the same team.
That would have been great.
Yeah,
that would have been great.
Yeah.
But that's my thing with Cleveland. There's nobody on the offense that scares me.
Okay. He stamped that one.
Nah, you know what? It's all great points, and I understand why, because again, they have a lot established, right? But I also think too, the Bengals are known to give up games that you would expect them to win.
They are. They do. Yeah.
And 1 week offensively, you look like a Super Bowl contender. The next week, you look like, you should be at Columbus State. You know what I mean? So I feel I feel that we do play the Bengals well. We turn it up a notch. And again, I think the team, especially on the defensive end, I think there's a lot to prove. I think we're coming in with really, I would say, there's expectations that people are assuming that the defense is not going to be as good as it was because we got exposed a little bit with that aggressive play, right? But I think a combination of it being a new year, and then I just think that the Bengals end up beating themselves a lot. I think we can capitalize off of that. And I believe that Shador is going to be better than what people think. And it's hard for a team who, again, you don't know who your quarterback is going into those games.
Yep.
And I think the defense may be better than what people think. So I'm confident. You know what I mean?
Sound like it. Yeah.
I'm
you
confident.
know your team.
And you know
sure.
what? Because again, and two, when you play sports,
Sounds like a Browns fan.
Yeah.
But I'm just saying, when you play, you understand, like, you know what I mean? At the end of the day, it comes down to how you're motivated, and also you just never know any given Sunday.
Yeah.
When I'm watching what these guys are doing in camp and things of that nature, I just feel like it's going to be a different team. Every year you can't just say what was last year is going to be the same for this year.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I think the team is really fed up with that. I'm glad we didn't do a complete rebuild. You know what I mean? I just think that every year there's a team that surprises you.
Yep.
Every year.
Yep.
That goes to the Super Bowl or has a huge run. And I look at it like, why that can't be us? Why this can't be us, where we be an unknown that
because
doesn't.
y'all say this every single year.
They really do.
But then again, and you guys say like you're going to the Super Bowl every year, and
But
then
they make it
you
to the
end up
playoffs every year.
But
they're 9-8 with the bullet, every year.
walking in.
Yeah. Yeah.
You're limping in.
Yeah.
But I'm saying you're a Super
true.
Bowl contender, and then you limp in the playoffs.
Yep.
So you can say what we say, but you guys say some stuff that don't add up too.
There's a lot of factors in that, though.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. Hey, I'm going to call it like I see it. Ravens fan, our rivalry is second to none in the AFC. I love that rivalry, by the way, because they don't even matter anymore.
I value it.
Because
Because you guys are the Kings of Ohio.
Yeah, for sure.
Just saying.
For sure. Now,
All right.
the Ravens will be better than the Steelers. Why?
The Ravens will split with the Steelers next year because we always split.
Yep.
50-50. Everybody's going to win their home game. Ravens going to have a slight little bit better record because they've got a little bit more pedigree. They've got a little bit more talent offensively.
Absolutely.
Defensively, it's a push.
Yep.
We're going to end up a little bit of lucky streak here and there. We got a little Lamar magic. So we'll have a win or two more than you, and we'll go to the playoffs again. You guys will sit there at 9-8, maybe a hopeful 10-7, and make it to the playoffs again.
That's a stretch this year, and I agree, but we will be better than you guys. I'm going to say this on the record because our defense is a lot better. TJ Watt, Highsmith, Peyton Wilson, Minka Fitzpatrick. Not too many teams in the AFC can rattle off 4 dominant players on defense, and I think we just they'll carry us. You know, if we're going to be 9-7, if we're going to be 10-7, whatever the case is.
I just think
having those
you're gonna have
guys
a hard
on
time
defense,
keeping them off the field.
Absolutely. But as long as that running game gets going, I'm optimistic because, you know, we have Troy Fontanu, I think that's how you say his name. He's back. They're moving him over to the left side, and they're putting Big 77 on the right side where he should be. You know, offensive line is looking good, and it's just going to be about can Mason or Will or whoever the quarterback is, can they turn around and hand the ball off? And we're fine with that. DK, get some of those jump balls that, you know, we'll be praying he still has that magic left. And, you know, we'll see. But I just think our defense will carry us as far as they can, and that's why we'll be better than most in the AFC.
I want to throw this for you guys too.
And
so
the Ravens.
The same way we said, like every year there's a surprise team, right? Every year there's a team that you expect to be at a certain level and they drop off. That could potentially be you guys. So I know it's a lot of shots thrown at the Ohio teams, but yeah, you made the playoffs. Yeah, you made the playoffs. What's to say you guys have a drop off that was unexpected?
It could happen.
And then you suck.
Right. You notice that my tone has changed a little bit from I'm not as confident as I usually am.
Yeah, I can tell. That's what I'm asking.
Nevertheless, Myron Cope is with us. And as long as these towels can wave in the air, as long as those fans stand behind their team, they'll summon that inner strength and we'll get back to prominence.
Just so y'all know, it rained today, so this is a little damp. Got a little lint towel. It's not even waving. This bad boy, he did like this. It said, it didn't even wave.
Yeah,
man. Get out of here,
man. So that's my heart. You guys know where I stand, but you know there are some question marks, and you know you can't be afraid to say it. So
I do gotta ask.
Yep.
Because we had the one you mentioned about Burrow.
Yeah.
Oh.
What's that?
Yeah.
You had mentioned like the hate that he gets.
Yeah.
We want you to just elaborate on that specifically.
Oh, I hear that he's cocky and he's, you know, everything. You know, oh, he's hanging out at Met Gala and all this stuff and blah, blah,
being
blah.
flashy.
Yeah, he bought the Batmobile.
Yeah, he buys the Batmobile and all this stuff.
Yeah.
You know, I listen to guys on the morning shows talk about he's not that good. He gets carried. It gets old, man. It gets old.
Yeah.
And when you hear him talk, man, like to the press, and when you hear what players say about him, it's complete opposite.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And I think, do we feel like, again, we talked about this like with social media and narratives that's created, how I think there's more people that want to create a negative narrative about
for sure
something that's like just simple. Like, when is it a bad thing to be confident? When is it a bad thing to be cool? When is it a bad thing? It's only a bad thing if some lame wants to go out there and hate on that.
He's pretty and he's talented, and as long as he stays healthy, he's dangerous.
Yeah.
And I have all kinds of respect for Burrow. He's a good player.
Yeah, unfortunately, somebody is going to find something. It doesn't matter. And then whatever's hot is going to catch fire and people are just going to run with it. I mean, that's the way of social media, man. I hate to say it, but negativity seems to catch fire faster than praising someone who's, you know, humble and can basically back up their gift. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So,
and I think, and again, I like Burrow outside when we play you guys. You know what I mean? And that's go for I don't want wish any ill will anybody, but when we play, I want us to dominate.
Right.
Yeah.
You know. But I would say, like, when I look at like on the news and say, for example, like some of his struggles, they will throw out there, well, because he was injured. So I do think in some cases he gets a little extra love too. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
I don't see that. But, all right.
but you know what I'm saying? I think like, and I've just seen some like other quarterbacks, it'll be like they don't get, and not just saying he's the only one, but you don't get like the same common sense approach to like why they're struggling. Because remember, like he had a couple injuries, and I think it was valid. Like he wasn't 100% healthy.
Yeah,
he will at least get that benefit of the doubt.
Yeah,
you know what I'm saying?
He's one of the few for sure. Yeah.
So
okay.
he said okay.
He said okay.
All right.
Did you hear the violins playing right there for Joe Burrow?
Yeah, but no knock on Joe unless outside when we play you guys. We try to knock him up a little bit.
Yeah,
you know?
for sure. Well, we did it again, man. It's been a great show. Thank you, Jason, Ryan, Coach Ant, AFC in the books. We'll keep you guys posted on the latest news.
Yeah, it's going to be fun.
It's going to be fun, man. This is going to be a great season. So, again, thanks for tuning in. Subscribe. Peace.
Peace.
Thank you.